I mean, you said it, but like, do beware of the monkeys. So the last hotel that we stayed at, they had to caution us, like, do not leave your porch open because the monkeys have learned to open the minibar and they will come in and they will steal the snacks. They're very, very, very bold and very mischievous, and they go after what they want. And I don't know, can't help but respect them for it.
Welcome to the Where Have You Been podcast. I'm your host, Bill Ream, and each week on the pod, I have conversations with incredible guests from all walks of life. Expect to hear funny, crazy, emotional, life-changing, and even sometimes life-threatening stories and experiences that will entertain and inspire you. As always, I appreciate your likes, subscriptions, ratings, and reviews wherever you are listening. It doesn't sound like much, but it truly helps the pod get to the ears of more people who may enjoy it. And check out the website, whybpodcast.com, for links to the socials where you can find pictures from the guests and their stories, and also buy merch if you're so inclined. Now let's get to this week's episode. Thank you for being here. And welcome in again to another new episode of the Where Have You Been podcast. And I say it every week that I have a fantastic guest. I have a fantastic guest again this week. I have a thespian with us this time, and someone who I've already spoken with before. And if you happened to listen to the feed earlier this week, you would know. And if you haven't, please check it out. I have Jane with us this week. Jane, I'm going to let you introduce yourself for those who haven't already listened. Who are you?
Wow, that was a great intro. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me on. So my name is Jane West. I am an actor. I am based in New York City. I have a background in theater, and I primarily now do film and television. I still maintain my dance background. I still dance, but I also write and I paint, and I started working on screenplays recently. So kind of a multi-hyphenate. And I also have my own podcast, which is how, Bill, you found me. I'm not going to say the full one because it has a bad word in it, because that's just kind of my style. But it's Where Have You Been, BITCH. So that's kind of how we got connected. And yeah, it's been a really fun ride in the podcast world.
Yeah. And again, I had a lot of fun with you. And yeah, so I don't know if I told the story on yours or not, but when I was looking to do this podcast, I just happened to search for what I thought I wanted to name it. And I come across a few maybe that were old that people weren't doing anymore. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to use it anyway. But yours came up. I thought, very interesting. And so as time went on, I just thought, I'm going to reach out to her and just see what's up. And I'd listened to a couple of your episodes and I really liked what you were doing. And so I said, hey, let's do this. And so here we are.
Thank you. I'm really glad that you did.
Yeah, me too. Thanks. So how long have you been doing like acting? You said you were doing dance before. How long have you been doing acting? And then when did you actually start the podcast?
Well, the first time that somebody asked me to put on a costume and pretend like I was somebody else, I was probably like 9 or 10, and my mom was volunteering at our local historical society, and they needed like a little skinny wench looking girl to play like a jailer's daughter. They were doing some like event at the old jail, and they were like doing all these tours, and they wanted like live reenactors kind of wandering around.
But they definitely wanted you as a wench as a compliment.
Yeah, definitely. They're like, you're tiny and skinny and creepy looking. Let's put you in a bonnet and go sit in this window. And I don't even think I had any real lines. Like they just kind of wanted like a tiny person to be like, oh, and then this is the jailer's daughter. But that was like the first time that I like was asked to perform in any way. And then the first play that I did, it was like in school. And I think it was probably a musical. And, it was a case of monkey see, monkey do, because my older sister was doing theater. Like everybody had to do an after school thing. So I just did what she was doing because I didn't know how to do anything else. And then when I was 13, I got more serious about it and I joined a company like outside of school. And then I think the first time that I like got paid to be an actor, I might've been like 14. When I was 15, I came to New York for the first time to start like a formal training program at a conservatory here.
Where were you from?
I'm from New Hampshire.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So not too far, but pretty different. And then, I went to Barnard College for a minute to study dramaturgy. I thought maybe I could approach acting from a more like academic side. I was still kind of resisting like going to a straight performing arts program. But then I got into NYU Tisch School of the Arts, and I was like, well, I have to go if they accepted me. Um, so that was primarily mostly like theater training, and then like towards the end of my time in college, I got a little bit of film training. Um, and I did a play. I did an off Broadway in 2018. So that's like how I joined the Actors Union. But yeah, I've mainly been doing shorts. Actually, I found out today that some TV that I shot last summer was released. It's so funny. Like you do all this work and then you kind of don't hear anything and you don't really know where it's going to go. And then out of nowhere, it's like, oh, it's live. Millions of people are watching it. And you're like, oh, cool. Okay, that's what it's called. Because you sign NDAs and you don't really get all the information. There's like, oh, Kelsey Grammer's hosting it. Oh, it's on this network. Oh, I had no idea, but like there I am. So that was a
That's
weird
so
thing to
awesome.
like happen. Yeah, it was a really weird thing. I just got like a random Instagram message from one of the actors who was on it with me and was like, we're live now, I guess. I just found out. And I started the
Wow.
podcast. I mean, it's probably a similar story to a lot of people, like how you mentioned the podcast boom of 2020. Everybody was locked in the house, waxing philosophic. And the phrase that is the title of my podcast is something that my sisters and I say to each other. It's from a show from like the early 2000s, like a mockumentary comedy kind of show. And it was just this like weird little phrase bopping around the internet that we thought was hilarious. So like whenever we pick up the phone talking to each other, we're always like, where have you been, girl? Except it's not that word. It's a different word. So we had this idea to start a podcast that was just like us three. It's just like a podcast with three sisters, and we each have pretty different personalities, and we each like bring a topic and talk about them. It kind of ended up like landing on me to do all the editing and formatting and stuff, and it just kind of burned out, and like, you know, my job came back, and but I still had like the Instagram page for it, which I don't really use, but like I claimed at the time. And towards the end of 2023, I was like, I just think it would be good to like revisit the project in general. And like, I might as well keep the same name, but I wanted to start talking to artists about like, how are we all staying inspired and creating art, creating work, connecting with each other during a time of pretty intense strife as far as like what's happening in our country and what's happening culturally. Sometimes, you know, you question like, should I still be an artist right now? Should I be trying to focus on other things? Should I get real about like the next steps of my life? But art is really the best thing that we should be making right now. So that's kind of the initial idea, but I've been producing episodes since the beginning of 2024, and I had like 30 episodes in the bag before I started talking about it to anybody, before I posted it anywhere. Like I just kind of wanted to do it as an exercise for as long as I could, and then when I felt like I had a pretty good catalog to like consistently post stuff, then I sort of started sharing it. But I've talked to people from like all walks of like all different industries, dancers, writers, filmmakers. I've talked to an architect. A friend of mine's been on a couple times and she's an anarchist. Yeah. And then I'll also occasionally like, you know, it's also good to just have a project where you sit down and sort of walk through your creative pursuits. So it's also, you know, a project for me. I have my partner on sometimes because he's working on a lot of stuff. So it's been just a really great exercise in meeting people and asking important and genuine questions and just like staying disciplined about something.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I really like what you're doing a lot. And so, how often have you been a guest on someone else's?
I have never been a guest on someone else's podcast.
So, we were each other's firsts. I'll take that.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
awesome.
So, and I also, one more thing before we transition into actual travel stuff,
Mhm.
I feel like there's something going on where you are going to be able to 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon with Rob Lowe, something coming for you.
So that's the thing that I found out was released.
Oh, is that it?
That's it, but that's kind of the thing. Like, thought it was produced by Rob Lowe, and maybe it's produced by him, but Kelsey Grammer is the narrator on a different show on this same network. Rob Lowe was both the producer and the narrator. So I thought that this project was like season 2 of this same show, but it sounds like maybe it. I'm learning new information about like where my work is going and where it's ending up kind of,
Interesting.
by the day. But that's
Yeah.
kind of the life of the actor. You work so hard, you do the auditions, you do the callbacks, and it's all kind of a whirlwind. You do everything on set. It's a long day and then it's over very quickly. And then you don't hear anything for sometimes like a year or two. And then, if it's a film, it sometimes does like a festival circuit and they can't fully release it until it's done with the festival circuit. And then it has to be picked up by distributors. And then once it's distributed enough, then it can go onto a streaming network and then you can share it, just share the link with people, and it's just like a thing that's just accessible on the internet. But sometimes that can take like several years. So it depends on the project. It depends on where it goes.
It's really
But yeah,
crazy.
I do think I will be able to put something on my IMDb that is connected to either Rob Lowe or Kelsey Grammer or both, which is cool.
And at this point, are you allowed to say what it is?
I would assume so. I mean, it's
It's out there.
been released. It's called Blood on the Bridge. It is in the canon of the Liberty or Death series, and this particular series of episodes is about the Battle of Lexington and Concord. So it's like a docudrama. It's like part reenactment kind of stuff. It's like historical education. And it is on the Fox Nation streaming service.
So cool. I
Thanks.
will definitely check it out. So
Thank you.
yeah, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So okay, so let's transition into travel stuff. So first of all, when did travel was travel a thing in your life when you were younger, when you were growing up, or did it start becoming a thing later on in life? How did that happen for you?
Ooh, it's a good question. And honestly, I struggle to remember exactly when the first time it was that I like ever traveled. Parents, they really focused on raising three adventurous, brave daughters. So they traveled a lot when they were younger, and I think it was just a matter of like waiting until the three of us were old enough to handle, long haul flights and staying in hotels and stuff, because it can be stressful for kids if the experience is new. So I think we traveled like a little bit like around New England. Like I was born in Massachusetts and kind of grew up in Maine for a little bit. And then right before high school, we moved to New Hampshire. So I remember doing like long car trips to like the Lakes region in Maine. Like we went to Florida a couple times to visit my grandparents. I want to say the first time that I left the continental US. Oh, I think it was to the Dominican Republic, which was an amazing trip. We did just kind of go to like stay in a resort. So we didn't do a ton of like traveling around the island and seeing things kind of outside our little bubble. And yeah, my older sister, as older sisters tend to do, particularly mine, she really blazed the path to international travel because she moved abroad for college, which I think at the time really freaked my parents out because she was like the first kid and the first one going to college, and she chose the school that was the farthest away.
Sure.
So
Where did she go?
she went to the University of St. Andrews in Scotland.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that it's a long way. It's a long ways away. So I think that was hard. It was hard for everybody for a while, but then it was a really great excuse to travel over there. And they like something like Thanksgiving, like there are a lot of
Hmm.
American students over there, but like it's not an American holiday, so they don't give them Thanksgiving off or anything. So we would bring Thanksgiving to them, and
Sure.
we would rent a little flat like in town and just start cooking really early in the morning and just have an open door. And it was all of her friends coming and going from class and like wanting a home cooked meal and wanting to have their Thanksgiving. And we did that, I think, for all 4 years that she was over there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I think that was probably like the earliest time. And I was, if she was starting college, I was probably 15, 14, 15, about.
Did you realize at that time that like, hey, I really like travel and I need to do this? Maybe you didn't completely realize it, but this it's going to need to be a part of my life as I grow up and get older.
Yeah. Um I mean, when you're traveling with family, it's a pretty like sheltered experience, but I would say the thing that got me out of like my small town bubble was that move when I was 15 to New York, cuz that was like my parents like drove me down and handed me some cash and were like, "We'll see you in a month." And I was living with a group of students and I had a very strict curriculum, but like other than that, I was a 15-year-old running around New York. And that was probably the thing that sticks out in my like travel development, like my experience as a traveler, to be like, oh, I want to like explore, I want to run around, I want to see as much as I can possibly see and meet as many people as I can possibly meet. So
And
yeah, and
what time frame are we talking here? Is this what like
that was 15 years ago. Yeah, I'm turning 30 in a month. So
happy
thanks.
nice. Okay, well, all right. So we've got the base.
Mhm.
So now let's just jump into the the bulk of the episode. So however you want to start with something that happened around that time, even just experiences when you first got to New York City, whatever you want to do. Some people list every place they've been. That's up to you. But Jane, where have you been?
Oh my goodness. I am so lucky that I have been to actually quite a few places. Um, I live in New York, so that's already like a multicultural hub. So I feel like I experience a lot of the world by just living here. I did a semester abroad in Berlin, Germany, when I was a junior in college, and when I was living over there, I remember my mom said, like, be safe, don't be stupid, but like explore as much as you possibly can, because it's like this is your time to do it. Like, you're on this side of the ocean, so just do whatever you have to do, and just try to see other countries. So when I was there, I went to Prague, Naples, Italy, Geneva, Switzerland. I did like a crazy bike trip through like the like around Lake Geneva when I was there. Dublin, London, Amsterdam, Poland, Norway, and then within Germany, I went to Potsdam, Dresden, and Hamburg. I've also been to Costa Rica, Barbados, Aruba. Within the US too, I've taken some road trips with one of my college friends and my cousin a couple of times. So we went through like Oklahoma, New Mexico, Arizona, California. I've been to Washington State, Utah, Wyoming, Montana. We drove through Idaho, Colorado, and we drove through Kansas, but we did not stop. I can say I've been to Kansas, but not really. So I want to say that's a pretty exhaustive list, I think, if I'm just listing things off.
It looks pretty good. I think you might have missed one or two from what you sent me, but we can get to that stuff. That's fine.
Okay.
Is there a place you'd like to start that's just like, if you and I were sitting down at a bar or in the living room or whatever, and we're just like hanging out and talking about travel, and you're like, man, this is one of my favorite travel stories I have that's ever happened to me?
Ooh. Well, I have two stories where things went very, very wrong and then corrected themselves, and it's kind of a nice story. So do you want
Okay.
the European version of that story or the more local New York version of that story?
You pick. Let's start in New York because that's where you were
Okay.
when you left off before. So
Okay. So I live in New York City, but upstate New York is one of the most beautiful places in the world. The Hudson Valley is so gorgeous. The Catskills are amazing. The Adirondacks are amazing. And every like September, October, I get very itchy for a trip upstate. And I decided to do like a day trip to Hudson, New York. So it's about a 2.5 hour trip on the Amtrak. I got up super early. I got my ticket. I got up to Hudson probably by like 10 or so. And it's just a really quaint little town. They have a really vibrant Main Street. So I spent most of the day just walking up Main Street, walking down Main Street. And then there's a really amazing antiques warehouse in kind of like the side part of town. So I walk over there and I spent like the last like probably 2 or 3 hours just wandering this huge warehouse. I could afford nothing. It was just to look. But I picked up a couple of teacups and I went to pay for them. And as I'm paying for them, I pull out my wallet and my Amtrak ticket falls out of my pocket. And I was like, oops, haha, like can't forget that. I need to get home. And the woman who was checking me out said, "Did you not see the news?" And my blood ran cold. I was like, what did you just say? She's like, have you not seen the news? There was a landslide down by, I forget what town, but some town like way south of Hudson. She's like, it took out the tracks. The tracks are buried. There have been no trains today. There are no trains. Like there haven't been any train whistles. Have you heard the train at all today? And I realized, oh my God, I have not heard any trains today. Like the station is right there. If there were trains coming and going, you would hear them.
Sure.
And I had heard nothing all day. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. Thanks. And I left and I checked out and I walked back to the train station and I tried talking to the woman and I was like, what options? Like, what do I do? Like, are there really like no trains at all? And she's like, the tracks are taken out. They're completely buried. Everything is canceled. I can give you a refund. But yeah, you can't get on a train from Hudson to anywhere else
Oh my
today.
gosh.
And I was alone and it was getting dark and I start to panic. So I go to this restaurant to charge my phone and I start looking at like Airbnbs, inns, hotel, like anywhere in the area. I also don't have a car.
And how old were you at this point?
This was like 2 years ago, I want to say. I
Okay,
think.
so at least you weren't like a teenager at this.
No, but I'm the same size that I was as a teenager. So like after dark, I can fight, but I can't
Yeah.
fight super hard, you know? So I
Yeah.
was like, all right, don't be stupid. Like, what are we doing? So as I often do when I'm like scared and I don't know what to do, I call my boyfriend and I'm like, I need you to borrow somebody's car and come get me. Like it's getting dark and I could not find any hotel rooms. Like it was wedding season. It's upstate New York in the fall. It's beautiful. Everywhere is completely booked. Completely booked. So he and a friend are at a bar and they start like calling around, looking at things online, and they're going to try to get me a hotel room. And I was like, the thing is, like I don't have a car. Like if it's not in Hudson, I don't know how to get there. Like there's no Ubers. What do I do? So the only place that they could find that was like a reasonable distance was probably like a 20-minute drive north. So I was farther away from home. And I was like, okay, but if it's the only place, sure. My boyfriend's friend, God bless him, put it on his company credit card and was like, we'll figure it out. Pay me later. I don't care. So that was figured out. And then my phone was going to die. And I started just kind of like wandering around trying to find a place to charge it. So I wander into another restaurant and I start talking to the hostess and I explain like, can I just stand here and charge my phone? I'm trying to figure out how to get to this hotel. Like, can you call me a cab? Do you know if there's Ubers in the area? And, you know, she kind of took pity on me and she let me kind of hang out. She goes in the back at one point and she comes back out with an older woman who was working in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And she comes up to me and she's like, she told me what's going on. I've just called my son. He's a very sweet boy. He's going to drive you to your hotel. Like, we have to look out for each other. If you were my daughter, this is what I'd want someone to do for my daughter. So this like really sweet, like 17-year-old kid rolled up and it was just one of those, like, I met the right strangers at the right time and they were willing to do me the right favor. So this sweet kid drove me to this motel and like sat in his car and watched me go into the office and made sure that I got into the room. That whole family they totally saved my life. And this is when I kind of stopped panicking and it starts getting funny. So I walk into this motel room and it is skeevy. Boy, it is like Skeeve City at the side of the freeway. Weird. It's a weird place. Okay. And I saw online, I was like, this does not have the best reviews. It looks kind of gross, but like, I just need somewhere. I'll stand in the middle of the room until the sun comes up. Like, I don't have to sleep. It's fine. So I unlock the door and I walk in and turns out they had booked me the honeymoon suite. Complete with the heart-shaped jacuzzi in the corner. So that's kind of when the night started to get funny. And I like call my parents and I call my boyfriend. I'm like, I'm fine. I'm in the room. The door's locked. I did start taking pictures of all the weird stains on the bed, in the bathroom, kind of everywhere, to be like, if I get lice or scabies or whatever, I'm going to, collect evidence so I can sue these people later. I slept for probably 3 hours in my clothes with my coat on, like wrapped around my head because the sheets were so nasty. And then in the morning I was like, okay, like my boyfriend was coming to get me. He had to borrow a friend's car and he was like, I'll be there in like 3.5 hours. Can you just wait somewhere safe? And I had to eat. So I went into the office and just stood in their office for like 2 hours because I didn't have anywhere else to go. And then walked up the road to this cute little diner. And it was Sunday. It was football Sunday.
Okay.
So all of the locals were there getting hammered. There were like 5 different TVs playing all these different games. Everybody was in their jerseys. And I'm like not invested. I don't really care about football. None of these teams are my teams. But it was just really fun to like sit down and just kind of like be among the locals for a little bit. So horrendously sleep deprived and starving. The food was like so greasy and bad. But yeah, once you get like a cup of coffee, the world starts to feel a little bit nicer. And then I had to sit there for like 3 hours waiting for my boyfriend. So, eventually I switched to beer and just kind of like had a good time and just kind of like hung out. And it was like Sunday and we watched some football and I was like chatting it up with the guys. And then once my boyfriend showed up, he like had a meal and, we hung out and it was like, it turned into like a fun little road trip. But yeah, every time I open my cabinet and I see the teacups that I bought from that antique warehouse, I think about that day and how I was so panicked. It was so scary. It was so weird for a little bit, and then it turned into a pretty fun little thing.
Yeah, I was so scared when you very first said something about the teacups. I thought she's going to pick them up, she's going to drop them, they're going to be antique and worth $1,000, and there's going to be something crazy.
No.
But no, that's really cool.
I'll send you the picture. It's probably buried way in my photos, but that heart shaped jacuzzi. I was like,
Yeah,
wow.
I don't want to see the pictures of
No,
the
okay.
sheets and stuff. That's good, but the other stuff's, yeah, that's fine. So okay, so then you have a sister version of that, or a sister story
Yeah.
from Europe somewhere.
Yes.
Let's go.
Okay, so I have done a lot of solo travel. Is it the best idea? Can I recommend it to everybody? No, I probably shouldn't be doing it myself, but living and learning.
Is it because just circumstance, like it's just easier to plan for one person, or do you choose to do it?
Both. I really like how travel can make you very introspective. And I think it's just a very healthy thing to do at least once and just be completely self reliant. Have a plan and like tell people where you're going. Obviously, like do all the safety things. But if you can travel by yourself, you can do a lot and it can teach you a lot about yourself. But also, it is easier to just not have to coordinate with other people and who's going to pay the Airbnb and how are we going to split it. And, some people want to walk around all day, other people want to chill by the pool. I'm the kind of person where like I will just get to a new city and just wander. And sometimes when I'm traveling with other people, they're like, "Where are we going? Like, where can we sit down? Like, what are what's happening now?" So yeah, when I was living
Right.
in Berlin, I was there as a student, so it was kind of hard to make friends just because like we were all working so much. Like I was taking like a full course load of classes. So I just found it easier to just be like, I'm just going to book the bus myself and just, book the hostel. And I would go to a new country for like 2 days tops. So I knew I wanted to go to Poland because it was right next door to Germany. So it was a pretty easy trip. My sister had told me like, if you're over there just as a human being, if you get the opportunity to go to a place like Auschwitz, just do it. It's just important as a person to go to a place like that and learn about it and, be able to say that you've been there. So I took an overnight bus from Berlin to Krakow. Somehow we ended up in Bratislav at 3 a.m, and I got woken up by the butt of a rifle at the border. It was during like one of the refugee crises in Europe. So they were being very strict about people crossing borders. So yeah, I got woken up at like 3 a.m. by a border officer to check my passport. And I do not speak any language but English. So that was a really fun interaction. Went back to sleep and woke up in Poland. When I got there at like 7 a.m, it was pouring rain, and I checked my Airbnb app, and the guy has canceled my stay
Oh,
because that was cool of him. That was fun. I only booked it for one night, and he was like, "Well, the minimum is 2 nights," and I was like, "Well, can you just make an exception for me?" Like,
right.
yeah, I'm 20 years old, like just whatever. So I found a hostel and got like one of the last beds in like a big co-ed shared room. I don't know how many of your listeners have experience with hostels, probably a lot of them. But you don't go for the glam. They're not really the most glamorous places. They're pretty bare bones. And I got like the cheapest bed in the cheapest room because it was the only thing available. So once I established that, I got back on another bus and went out to Auschwitz, which, yeah, that was a hard day. Really important to learn about it. I don't regret at all having gone. I'm really glad that I did. But I knew like, okay, let me just get this done first and check it off the list and say that I've been there, and then go back to Krakow and enjoy the city.
So it was as impactful as you would think it would be.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was a really long time ago, but I just remember like being there by myself too, like having not, I wasn't really with a group. And there is kind of like a walking path that you can take through the different buildings. Um, but it like walking through the rooms where they had everybody's like shoes and wedding rings and hair and eyeglasses piled up. And just knowing like this is a fraction of a percentage of the people that came through here. It
Yeah.
just, yeah, to know that it makes it real. Like being there and really seeing it makes it real. So it was a
Yeah.
very impactful thing to experience. And if anybody, is over there, it's definitely a thing that people should do.
Yeah. And I haven't been to somewhere like that. The closest that I've ever been was the Flight 93 Memorial here in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I think, and I did that by myself. I did that I did a little weekend trip and I stopped there on my way home. And I think it was actually almost more meaningful and impactful because I was by myself. So I could just kind of take my time and explore my own thoughts and feelings. And I didn't have to worry about what anybody else wanted to do or what they wanted to look at or if they wanted to leave.
Yeah.
And so it was really moving and really cool to do that, I think. And again, I think on my own was the right choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I agree.
but yeah. So anyway, yeah. So you did that and then
So
you went
I
back.
did that. And yeah. And then getting back to Krakow, I forget how long the bus drive is, but Krakow is such a cool city. Granted, I was there 10 years ago, so it's probably very different now, but some of just the coolest art, the coolest graffiti, like the best food, and everybody there was so nice. Like even the guy that had to cancel my Airbnb booking, he felt really bad about it. And like, it was what it was. But yeah, to go from somewhere so, hard. It's Auschwitz is a tough place to go, and then to go back to Krakow and just meet like the most like fun, young, interesting people who were so welcoming to me. Like I think it was very. It's pretty obvious. Like I'm walking around with a backpack. I don't speak Polish. Like I'm a tourist, but they never made me feel like it was weird that I was sitting at a table by myself, or it
Mhm.
was weird that I was like kind of underdressed because I didn't bring any other clothes because I was living out of a backpack. Like they were just very welcoming, warm people.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, what went crazy on that? Was it just the waking up to a gun in your face
Yeah.
was crazy?
Yeah, being woken up by border patrol was a little bit nuts.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
panic of having my Airbnb be canceled.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and then like first I hadn't even had coffee yet, and then to get back on a bus and go to Auschwitz and this like whirlwind, and also having like not really slept at all on the bus. Like I was traveling on the cheap so much, and back then you could
Yeah.
get an overnight bus across several international borders for like €10, like very
Oh
very cheap. But it's meant it's like you are. I remember literally lying down, trying to sleep on the like bench seats in the far back of the bus. And
hmm
another young woman had the same idea. So I literally slept like this woman's feet were like up by my chest and my feet were up by her chest because we were like sleeping like opposite like that. I
Oh,
was like,
that's
well,
funny.
this is the glam of travel, the glam of solo
Yeah.
travel.
I don't think it's actually probably that immensely different. Like once you get to Europe, travel is so inexpensive.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do
Highly
it right.
encourage anyone go to Europe. If I could just go anywhere in Europe and spend like 2 or 3 months. I mean, once you get there, you can do so much.
Yeah.
I
It's
don't,
so easy
unfortunately,
to get between cities, to get between countries.
yeah, between trains, there's so many trains. And even if you do have to fly, the flights are so cheap and they're so short. It's, yeah, really cool. So, okay, so you did that as a student,
Hmm.
right? And so after you had your semester in Berlin, was it one semester you did?
Yes.
And then where did you just go back to New York City after that?
Hmm. Yep.
Okay. So when was your next travels? Did you travel anymore while you were still in college, or is that a little bit more after?
Um, I would say it was after.
Besides maybe
Uh,
some road trips or something.
yeah, some road trips. Um, I'm trying to think of like what exactly the next like leg of travel after that was. I mean, I finished college in December of 2016. I finished a semester early, and then I graduated. I was technically class of 2017, so I walked to graduation in 2017, and like I don't really think I did very much travel for a good like 2 or 3 years.
hmm
I was auditioning a lot. I booked a lot of short films. And also like when you're an actor and you book certain things, that's also an opportunity to travel. Like this
hmm
thing that I found out today was released. We shot at this like beautiful house right on the water in Connecticut. It was probably like a hour and a half long ride from Midtown and just felt like an entirely different world, but like we were only in Connecticut.
Yeah.
So, you do like little trips here and there. And then in 2020 happened, everything in 2020 happened, and I wanted to do something big for my 25th birthday. So my cousin was living out in Utah at the time, and I was like, if I fly out there and pay for all the gas, can we just like drive around to different national parks? Because I had yet to really see like most. I feel like I had done a lot of travel in Europe more than I had done travel in my own country at that point.
I was
So
literally going to ask you what
yeah,
kind of stories and experiences you have in the US, because it just happens that we sort of ignore the US because we feel like, oh, everybody's already seen the US. But
no, you
most of
haven't.
us that live in the US have not seen the US.
No, it is
So
it.
I love hearing stories and experiences from our own country.
Yeah, it's the breadth of experience that you can have in our own country is just mind-boggling. So that road trip, we started in Salt Lake City. We drove up through Utah, through Wyoming. We hit Yellowstone. And like the national park that I really, really wanted to do was Glacier National Park, which is right on the Canadian border. So we drove up through Montana, and we were doing a lot of car camping. We ended up staying in a couple hotels just because we would accidentally start like very strenuous hikes and like be hiking all day and just be like disgusting and exhausted. And he would be like, I need an actual bed. I need to shower just to like feel like a person again.
Mm-hmm.
But we were mainly like just kind of bumming it for, I want to say we were on the road for like a 10 days or like 2 weeks. And then once we got to Glacier, which is unspeakably beautiful, like it's crazy.
Wow.
Just how gorgeous that national park is, that part of the country is. Montana is, I mean, even just outside the national parks, just driving around parts of Montana, it's some of the most beautiful landscapes I have ever seen and maybe will ever see. But we stayed in like a glamping tent in the woods.
Oh, cool.
Like for my actual birthday, which was it was just really like peaceful and nice to sort of like hit a milestone like that in such a beautiful and peaceful place. And the night that I turned 25, a deer walked out of the woods and like confidently walked right up to where we were sitting. Like we weren't like inside the tent or anything. We were sitting out on the little like deck area, and she walked up close enough I could have touched her. And I took that as a sign of like some spirit is speaking to me right now, or the universe is speaking through this deer to say like 25 and beyond is going to be a good time. So yeah, it was to get all hippy dippy witchy at the last second, but that's probably the biggest trip that came out of like those first few like post college years, I would say.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I love stories like that, things like that.
Oh, me too. Absolutely. Stuff that just doesn't happen every day.
Yeah.
But can kind of hit you in the feels, and you remember that for, you
Hit you in
remember
the
that
feels.
forever. So yeah, it's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So anything else? Let's just stay in the US for a minute, if you don't mind. Any other stories from being in the US, places you've traveled, cool people you've met, or just really awesome experiences, maybe with a friend or by yourself? Or is most of your travel in the US, was that also a lot of it solo, or was that a lot of that was with friends or family?
So within the US, I mainly travel with other people because I am a New Yorker through and through, and I don't think I know how to drive anymore. I have a driver's license. I have not used it in 10 years. So I'm a little bit scared to drive again. And like wherever you go in the US, you have to have a car. I mean, yeah, there were so many great little tidbits from I took a really great road trip this summer before I moved to Berlin with a friend, and we went to the White Sands of New Mexico, which is like another planet. The White Sands of New Mexico is such a weird, I say weird like it's a bad thing. It weird in the best way. You truly feel like you're like on Mars. It's just where everywhere you turn, these bright white rolling sand dunes in the middle of the desert, and the sky at night is like nothing you have ever seen before. It's like you would think it's like an edited photograph. the amount of because there's no light pollution. Like, you drive out into the desert for hours until you hit the national park, and then you drive further into the national park, and your quote unquote campsite is just like a divot in the dunes. Like, you just have to go find it. If so, people listening, if you do go, definitely go to the White Sands if you can. Be very, very smart and be very, very safe. It can be very dangerous. It gets unbelievably hot, and it's easy to get like disoriented when there aren't like markers like trees and rivers and stuff. It's literally just open space, open sand. So that's a place I would not recommend going alone. Go with a buddy, know where you're going, be prepared, bring water, all that good stuff. I mean, I could
And
talk.
when you said camping, like you said campsite, like you just brought your tent. You just brought a tent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Which, like, am I the best at camping? Not really. I feel like the older that I've gotten, I'm, when you're exhausted enough, you can kind of sleep anywhere. But there were some nights I would sometimes crawl back into the car and I would sleep in the car. I don't know. You just kind of need that like hard shell around you for security.
Yeah.
I mean, I could
someplace
talk
you know that a
about
spider's probably not going to crawl on you in the middle of the night.
probably not going to crawl on you. No, I haven't really had any major. Well, I was stung by a jellyfish twice. But as far as like twice, yeah. One of them on a family
Didn't
vacation.
learn the first time.
No, well, you can't really see them. They,
That's true.
But yeah, the first time I was on a family vacation with my boyfriend's family, and I think that was the year we went to South Carolina. And like first time at the beach, I like wade out into the water and my legs feel like they're being electrocuted. So I kind of just calmly like walk out of the water and I walk back up to where everybody is. And I'm like, so I think I just got stung by a jellyfish. And as I'm saying it, you see like where the tendrils kind of like brushed mainly my left leg and some of my right leg. And the sting goes away fast. Like, it's not really the initial sting that's that bad. It's when the sting is healing. That can be very, very uncomfortable. The second time I was stung by a jellyfish was across my arms when I was snorkeling in Costa Rica with my family. So I don't know. They like me. I don't know. They find me.
And I don't need details, but is the remedy that we hear, is that really the way to take care of it? Is there other ways to handle that?
No, that remedy is kind of doesn't really do anything. Apparently the best thing to like something to immediately put on it is vinegar. Okay. Apparently. Yeah. And then like hydrocortisone cream.
Okay. And it just takes care of itself.
Yeah, after a while, but it's the heal, because like when it heals, it itches really bad, and it just looks like this like gnarly, crazy like skin infection or something. This is so not cute for your listeners. I'm sorry. Maybe cut this out.
Hey, we keep it real though.
Yeah, do we keep it real? It is part of traveling. Like, things happen, medical things, injuries. Yeah, no, that's also very real.
Yeah, and I want people to know, hey, if you get stung by a jellyfish, you can say you heard on the Where Have You Been podcast how to take care of it.
Exactly.
The right way. Yeah. See? Public service announcement. Okay. And I feel like you were going to start saying something before we talked about jellyfish, but I don't remember. No. So if you don't remember,
I'm just thinking about like big, I don't know. I feel like when I travel for safety reasons, I try to keep to myself. But a cute story about another road trip that I took also in 2020 was up to the Adirondacks. And my boyfriend and I had just started dating. We were like pandemic dating, so it was all kind of weird. And it was the fall again, so I was like, I want to go upstate. I want to see the leaves. Like, let's take a camping trip. And I was like, this is going to be the big test. Like, I've been seeing this guy for a few weeks, and if he's a serial killer, this is where I find out. So we rented.
Spoiler alert, he's not.
Spoiler alert, 5 years later, he is not. So we rented a van and just lived out of this van for like 5 days, and we drove all the way up to, we were going to go just like to, the Adirondacks and some of the lakes, Lake Placid and stuff. And we wound up driving all the way to the Canadian border, all the way over like almost to Buffalo, through Amish country. We ate at diners.
You're talking about my hometown now.
We probably actually weren't that far. Yeah.
Yeah. Amish country up there. If you went south from like through Buffalo, you might have gone through like Clymer, Sherman area. That's really heavy. And that's real close to where I lived before I came back or moved down to Pittsburgh. So interesting.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the trip where I was like, okay, if we can do this and like not get into any arguments and everything goes well and we still like each other, we should just we should just call it. And I drove up to the Adirondacks with a guy I was dating, and we drove back to the city. I drove back with a boyfriend, with a partner. So
That's so
yeah,
sweet.
yeah. And so now every year
Yeah.
we try to do some kind of travel. So year 2, we drove up to the Catskills and kind of did the same, car camping thing again. Year 3, we went to Sicily, which was his first time leaving the continental US. He didn't have a passport when we met. Year 4, we went to Barcelona.
Nice.
And I think, wait a minute, I skipped a year. No, year 1 was Catskills. Year 2 was Sicily. Year 3 was Barcelona. Year 4, we were doing some traveling with my family. So I was like, let's just like try to keep it local. And we did some car camping upstate again. And it was on that trip 4 years in that we were like, let's get hotels next time. Like, we're a little too old for this. Like, love you. I don't need to be sleeping in a car with you anymore.
Yeah.
And our big trip that we want to do, maybe it'll be, I don't know, some other big milestone. We want to do Tokyo.
Yes. Yeah. Awesome. So speaking of, you said you took that trip in the fall. Speaking of fall, what happened? What happened in Switzerland?
Oh, okay. So, that's a funny segue.
Thank you.
Wow, it was very, very clever. Okay, so I traveled to Switzerland during the fall break of my semester abroad. So I was living in Berlin, and we had a week off from classes, and I was trying to get organized with like some friends that I had made to figure out like where are we going. And a lot of people wanted to go to like Ibiza. They wanted to go to, I don't know. They wanted to go party. They wanted to, I don't know what they were trying to do. And I was like, well, I'm just, let me just like do my own thing then. So I packed a bag and I jumped around from Naples, Italy. And then from Naples, I went to Geneva. And then Geneva, I went to Dublin. Dublin, I went to London. And I stayed with a friend. And then London back to Berlin. So I did kind of like a big loop. So, traveling for cheap, I was like eating garbage. I was probably dehydrated a lot of the time. I was like barely sleeping. So I got to Geneva and I had one night in Geneva. And just kind of like walked around town. I took the train to a really pretty town on the lake called Lausanne. And then I biked from Lausanne to Montreux. Montreux, there's a really cool statue of Freddie Mercury. I took a picture of the statue and then got back on the bike and took the trek back to Lausanne. Which that was also, I should find pictures from that bike trip. It was like as the sun was going down around Lake Geneva and like biking through these like quaint little hamlets and through these vineyards. That was a really amazing thing to do by myself.
Second to walking, biking is probably the coolest way to see an area.
Biking is the best. So, biking is absolutely the best.
Absolutely.
So I got back to Lausanne, dropped off the bike, got back on the train, and I didn't want to buy another night in a hostel in Geneva because Geneva is absurdly expensive. It was going to be like €115 for one more night in a bed. And I was like, well, that's, I don't know. Maybe if I can go to the airport, my flight to Dublin is very early. I was just going to like sleep at the airport. So I get to the airport and I like kind of find a place to lie down and shut my eyes for a few hours, but like don't really sleep. I got up again at 5 and was sitting in the only cafe that was open. Just kind of like trying to keep my blood sugar up. I think I was drinking coffee, so I was probably like over caffeinated like immediately, and just kind of scrolling on my phone
and dehydrating yourself.
Yeah. And I was eating like Toblerone. Like I wasn't like I didn't have like real food. And Switzerland is so expensive. Like I think I survived on like a bag of popcorn for like 2 days.
Maybe you shouldn't travel by yourself.
Well, I mean, like I was dumb. I was in my early 20s. I was trying to save money and just see stuff.
Yeah.
And you got to do what you got to do.
You do what you got to do.
So I was scrolling on my phone and I don't know why I came across it, but I was reading this article that included like a description of a surgery that this woman had. And all of a sudden, everything started to get fuzzy. And I was like, oh no. And I had fainted before, so I knew what it felt like. I kind of feel it coming on. So I get up and I start walking to the bathroom because I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to get sick or pass out or both. So let me just get to the bathroom. I collapse on my way to the bathroom, but then immediately stand back up. Because when you kind of like know what's happening, you still kind of have your bearings around you. And this guy was in front of me and I think he saw that happen and he probably thought that I was like on hard drugs or something. It was just like a weird, what is up with this girl? I keep walking, and then everything goes dark, and I wake up, and my limp, sweaty body is like propping the bathroom door open, and there is a woman across the terminal screaming and running at full speed towards me, like across the walkway, like yelling in either German or French or a mix of both. So I must have been passed out for like a minute because she saw me from way over there
Oh my
and
gosh.
was like trying to get help and try to get to me. And I remember I sat up and I'm trying to explain in what little French I know and what little German I knew, like, I'm okay. I just need a snack. I'm fine. I'm not overdosing. I'm not like, this
Uh-huh.
isn't anything crazy. Like, I'm a little dehydrated. I just need some food and I need to. So yeah, that was probably the weirdest, scariest time on that trip. But yeah,
I
all I
did.
needed was like a candy bar and
I,
some water,
I,
and it was
I
fine.
didn't. I didn't mean to laugh. I just picture walking behind someone who, who I know is going to end up okay, and you're just your body went completely limp and fell to the ground and hopped right back up,
Yep. Yep.
like one of those toys that you have when you're a kid. You push the bottom up and the whole body falls down, and
Yeah.
when you let go, it stands back up again.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what it was.
That's
And like both, I just remember feeling like my knees hit my chest. And then I realized on the floor, like, oh, I just passed out and I just stood right back up.
oh my gosh.
Yeah, really bad. So that's probably, it would have helped to maybe not be traveling solo then, but just like for my own embarrassment, I'm glad that I was traveling solo then and no one that I knew really could remember that. I hope that woman is okay. I think I
Right.
freaked her out more than I was freaked out.
She probably will never forget you either. So
Yeah, I hope she
there's
I hope she
that.
got some therapy.
Ma'am, if you're listening,
Sorry.
Jane's okay. So thank you for your concern.
Yeah, thank you for your service.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
There's places that you've been that I haven't, and I'm interested to learn about. But there's also places you've been that I have, and I'm interested to hear your take on. I also want to be mindful of time, so I don't want to go too much longer with you. But one of the places you have on here, did we talk about the Scottish Highlands at all?
Ooh, no, we haven't yet.
Yeah, and I know you said Scotland before for your sister, so I'm assuming that's probably why you were there.
Hmm. Yeah.
But yeah,
So yeah, my older sister went to school over the University of St. Andrews is kind of in like the northwest part of Scotland, if I'm remembering correctly. And for her graduation, my parents wanted to kind of ball out and have a really good time. So we flew over there and did her graduation and packed up. We rented a very tiny car and we literally did like a counterclockwise loop through the Scottish Highlands just as a family and saw like just some of the most amazing vistas. We did some really great hiking. We stayed at some really, really beautiful property, like really gorgeous old houses on lakes. Yeah, and we ended up in Glasgow. Glasgow's a really, really fun town, really fun place to party. There's just a lot of really, really interesting history. And like, in the US, you drive up to something and it's like, oh, this house is like 300 years old and now it's a museum. Cool.
hmm
You're driving through a place like Scotland and it's like this rock formation was made by like the original Celts 9 AD and
yeah,
has been here for like, and you just drive past it like it's just a part of life for people over there.
it's crazy.
Yeah, it was a really, really beautiful trip. We stopped at a fair number of distilleries. I'm not really a whiskey person. My dad's into whiskey, but like you have to try it when you're over there. Anybody who travels over to Scotland, there is a distillery called Edredor, and they have a cream whiskey that is
Oh,
so good. The guy giving us the tour, I remember he said, it's really sweet. It's kind of like a dessert kind of whiskey, but my wife likes to put it on her oatmeal in the morning.
that's a great way to start the day.
Yeah, I was like, that's the most Scottish thing I've ever heard. And then
That's
they also have like
incredible.
little like whiskey candies and stuff. So
Oh
if
wow,
anybody's over there, that's try to make a stop at Edgeador.
that's
Yeah,
cool.
and like
Any
we hit some castles, we hit
Mhm.
some um like old clan houses. Like we're the Gordon clan. We have a house. I don't. It was kind of out of the way of our itinerary, so we didn't actually get out to our our house, but we definitely hit some castles, and it was really cool to learn about like the clan system and like the
Hmm.
oldest families in Scotland. I have the souvenir that I could get was this like throw made out of like 100% real Scottish wool, and it's the Gordon clan tartan. So that was cool to also like connect with some family history.
Heck
And
yeah.
funnily enough, the flat that we would rent when we would host Thanksgiving was directly across the bay, the Gulf, from the town that my ancestor was from. He was this guy named, oh my gosh, I think his name was Angus, and he was a deaf butcher. And like from the
Um,
flat that we stayed in, the big bay window, you could look directly across the bay and like see the town. However many great 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 grandpa
yeah.
back, that was where he was
Uh,
from.
I'm sorry. What did you say he was?
He was a deaf butcher. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think his name
That
was Angus, I think.
that's very, very, very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a place that honestly I've thought about it before, but the more that I've talked to people who've been there through doing this podcast, it makes it a lot more interesting to me. Ireland has always been kind of on my list, and Scotland was sort of like, yeah, okay, maybe, but I'm finding that I'm more intrigued the more I hear about it. So
Yeah, everybody should go to Scotland.
yeah,
It's Ireland and Scotland both. It's just some of the most beautiful, the really beautiful places, really amazing food. I feel like food in like that area of the world, the UK and stuff, gets a bad rap. Some of the best food I've ever had was on that trip in the Scottish Highlands, and the people are just the warmest, sweetest, most inviting, welcoming people you will meet anywhere. If you try to ask for them for directions, like we kind of got lost a few times on these like long, winding, tiny roads through these back hills of the Highlands, and we'd stop and ask for directions, and it would just be like,
turn left
okay,
at the
I
rocks.
yeah, turn left at the rock. If you drive into the lake, you've gone too far. But the accent, it was like my poor dad trying to be like, I'm sorry, I don't know what you
Oh,
just said. Can you repeat it? Can you say it again?
you need Google Translate for the accent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, so a couple more places
Hmm.
before we wrap, if you're okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I told you, my daughter went to university in Prague. She spent 3 years there. So sort of
Oh,
similar to your sister, like it's a great excuse to travel.
yeah.
So, I've been there a couple of times, once just to visit, and then once for her graduation that was last year. Wow. And so we took her, we went to Italy and did some other stuff when we were there to see her. But what was you were you there just briefly in Prague? And then I also want to hear about Amsterdam, since they're kind of relatively close to each other.
So Prague was the first place that I went like on a weekend when I was living in Berlin. And I did go with a friend. I went with a girl who I think we were just like lumped together as roommates, and it was just like a place that she wanted to go to.
And I assume
But
it was probably like Old Town Prague. I mean, that's kind of where everyone goes, right?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but I did have to travel by myself down there because she had to stay behind to take a test. I remember I remember that. So that was kind of freaky. Like, okay, I thought I was traveling, to this new country with a buddy, but turns out I have to get there by myself. So, she met me at the hostel the next day, which was fine. But yeah, I just remember like the art there is so cool and like so weird in the
Hmm.
best way, and it's everywhere. People likes to party pretty hard in Prague. I remember we went to this nightclub that like you enter at street level, and then I was like, oh cool, there's a basement, and then you go down to the basement, and there's another like dance floor, another DJ, another bar, like whatever, and then it's like, oh, there's a sub basement, and then we went down to the sub basement, and then there's like three more floors after that, so we were like near the center of the earth, like dance, and like every level got like the DJ got kind of weirder, and the lights got kind of crazier, and the drinks got a little stronger. So I think they do that on purpose. They get you like further away from the light and are like, just like stay and party all night. um we weren't stupid. We got back to our hostel at a very reasonable hour, and
Nice.
we did do some museums. The Dali Museum is there. And yeah, the old Jewish quarter is really, really beautiful. And the big castle, that's, I'm forgetting what
Prague
the name
Castle.
of it,
Prague
but
Castle.
is
Yeah,
it's
it's
just
just
Prague
Prague
Castle.
Castle. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, like at the top of the hill there.
Hmm. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah,
The
Prague was a
cathedral
lot of
inside
fun.
there is really, really awesome too. And you saw the Lenin Wall.
Saw the Lenin Wall. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Did all that.
Which is completely different than when you, I mean, it's ever changing. And we went, the first time we went, it was awesome. And then we went, I think it was 2 years later, and it was completely different. And I was actually a little bit upset because it just wasn't the same. It
Mm.
was a little bit more graffiti-ish than artistic.
Yeah.
But I'm sure, they'll clean it up. It's a landmark. So,
Yeah. And it's kind of like a living
mm-hmm.
thing, too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's really cool.
yeah.
Yeah, I love it there. I have really great memories being there. So I just wondered what your take was. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's such a cool city, and it's so like it's so cheap, and like to be able to just like do everything and like not stress about like how how much things are going to cost. Like I just remember cramming a lot in, and I was only there for I think we were only there for like 2 days,
Yeah.
but it's a cool spot.
Awesome. And nobody has talked about Amsterdam. I've not
Really?
one person, not one person on the podcast.
Oh gosh, Amsterdam was the last city that I visited when I was doing my semester abroad. I think I probably went like the weekend before finals started. Um and I went solo. I stayed in a hostel that was like kind of outside of the center of town. Took a night bus as was my MO.
And just in case, and I'm sorry, in case anyone who is listening is hearing the term hostel and thinking we're miss saying hotel, like you had said earlier, a hostel is sort of a community place to stay where you're basically renting a bed and you're
Yeah.
sharing a bathroom and you're sharing a shared space with a kitchen and maybe a sitting area if you're lucky, and that's about it.
That's about it. Yeah, it's super super bare bones. You can pay to have like a private room, and then that way it's like kind of closer to a hotel, but like you don't get like turn down service, you don't get laundry, you don't. It's usually still like a shared bathroom, and like the cheapest of the cheap is I think I stayed in like a 16 bed co-ed room.
Yeah, you got bunk beds.
Yeah, bunk beds. So I was sleeping above like a 45-year-old dude who like had gotten evicted and just needed a place to crash for a few nights. And then I remember I woke up and there was some like heavy metal looking dude like literally like 6 inches away from my face because he was like on the bunk bed like right next to mine, kind of like tucked into the corner. Yeah, and like you show up and you get like a key and a towel and you can put your valuables in a locker. But that's about it. Like you pay for a bed.
It's a place to sleep.
It's a place to sleep.
Clean up.
But like the hostel that I stayed in Naples, that was a really amazing experience because it was also just like a fun, chill hangout for a lot of the young people in the area. Like they had a bar, they had a restaurant. When you check in, you get like a free drink. They had like a little sitting hangout area with pool and games. And, people were there to also, be in Naples and not stay in the hostel and travel around. But like there's also a really fun hostel culture. And the hostel that I stayed in Norway, that was a really amazing experience. I became really, well, I wouldn't say close friends, but I had like a really great conversation a couple times with this Australian dude. And I remember having dinner with him because you get meals, like you can get breakfast and for an extra like couple bucks, they'll feed you dinner or something. A band just kind of like wandered in and were playing like in the little communal area where we were eating. And they were like, yeah, it's just like a free space for us to get together and practice. And, the people seem to like it. And yeah, some of the best things can happen in the cheapest places.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
So Amsterdam. Oh boy, Amsterdam is everything. Amsterdam was so amazing. I did 4 museums in one day. I did the Anne Frank Museum first, and I did not cry until you get to, I don't know how many of your listeners. So when you go to the Anne Frank house, you kind of go on like a walking path through like their living space. And then once you get past that, there's kind of like more of a museum portion where there's, documents and clothing and written like artifacts and stuff. And I did not cry until I got to the plaque. That was like an excerpt from an interview from her dad describing what it was like to leave the concentration camp and find out that none of his family made it. So yeah, did the Anne Frank house first. Do the hardest thing first. I'm learning. Like if you're going to a place that's difficult, because you should learn something, you should see it, you should experience it. Just do it first. Feel your feelings.
You can lift yourself up after, sure.
And then go get pancakes.
And coffee.
Pancakes and coffee.
Maybe some whiskey.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Then go do all the fun, tasty things after. The pancakes in Amsterdam are so good. Apparently, I think it's like where pancakes were kind of invented. I hit the Rembrandt Museum. I hit the Van Gogh Museum. One other museum. It is escaping me. And there is a cafe called Winkle 43. I'm hoping it's still around. I can look it up right now. And they're known for their apple pie. And I just want to look up quickly if it's still there. I think it is still there. Yes. Okay. So this spot, Winkle 43, they're known for their apple pie. And I remember, like, when you're traveling by yourself, you don't really want to take up too much space. You don't want to take up a table if you're just a party of one. They're not going to get a big tip out of you. So I was kind of got in, got out, but I got a slice of apple pie and a cappuccino. And I remember thinking, like, they put crack in the pie. Like, I ate this piece of pie so fast. It was so unbelievably good. I was like, there has to be some other substance.
I mean, it's
in this
Amsterdam.
pie.
There could have been, right?
Yeah, that's true. Actually, there could have been. Really great place. Like, if you're a foodie, it's like the cheese capital, one of the cheese capitals of Europe. Really amazing chocolate. Yeah, and it's just a really gorgeous city to walk around in. Like, all the canals. I did like a night tour on the canals where they kind of take you around, where there's like light up art sort of hanging over the waterways. I mean, I walked the red light district. Like, you got to do it. It's cool. It's an interesting like cultural thing. Be respectful. Don't be weird. But it was a cool thing to at least like see, say that you've experienced. Yeah, and it's just a really, really good time. The people are really nice. The food's amazing. And like, everywhere I went for all of 2015, like 2015 was really like a big breakout year for travel for me. I was journaling everywhere that I went. And my entry for Amsterdam was just, Amsterdam is everything. Like, I couldn't even like fully journal about what the experience fully was. I was like, I can't even like put into words just how beautiful that city was. Maybe there was something in the pie. Maybe there was some other thing that made me feel really, really good. Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah. And, and I think that's I think one of the coolest things, like, so I think there's a fine line. I talked about this on another episode, which actually hasn't aired yet. But I did talk about this with somebody else who fancies themselves a photographer. So I was a little bit off in, maybe I shouldn't have been talking to him about it, but I feel like there's a fine line with photography when you're traveling.
Yeah.
And to each their own, right? But some people get so focused on, I got to get the right photo. I got to get the right picture. I want every angle. I want to, I got to Instagram all these things, and I got to show all my friends or whatever. And I think some people do too much with the photography, and they don't really experience where they are because they're so focused on it. But I also think it's really important to make sure that you're capturing, whether it's just landmarks or, I hope you got a picture of the pie. If you didn't, but you still have a vibrant memory of that anyway. But like, to be able to go back, because like you said, sometimes you just can't put things into words. But when you look back at the photographs, you can feel it again.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's important to do it. I just think it's important to not overdo it. But
yeah,
that's just my own. That's my soapbox.
Yeah, no, it's a good soapbox to be on. And my younger sister traveled to Amsterdam when she did a semester abroad, and my parents actually traveled to Amsterdam more recently. And I told them to go to this cafe and order the apple pie. And I was like, I can't describe to you how good it is. You just have to go and do it. And my mom called me when they like got back to the hotel, like, just called to just like, check in and stuff. And she said, she was like, they put a crack in the pie. Like, I don't know what is in it, but that was crazy. Yeah.
Fantastic. I'm going to Amsterdam.
Yeah.
That is actually, the bucket list is ever growing as I'm doing this now, but yeah, it's on the list. So one last place before I get to my final 5 questions.
Okay.
You've been a trooper. This has been awesome.
This has been great. Yeah, this is fun.
One of my favorite places on earth. We've talked about this already, but Costa Rica.
Ugh.
Tell me.
Yeah,
Costa Rica. Again, and tell me more about Costa Rica.
Okay, so my family, we're very, very close. We have so much fun together. My parents are, I'm going to cry. They are the coolest people that I know. Like, even if they weren't my parents, I would want to be friends with them. They're so fun. my sisters and I are very, very close, and we all now have serious partners in our life. So the past few years have, obviously, for a variety of reasons, been tumultuous. And my parents had this idea that instead of doing like a big Christmas celebration, like we still do Christmas and we'll exchange like little tiny gifts, but like we don't really, as far as doing like a big gift exchange Christmas kind of thing, we're kind of paring it down in lieu of like so that we can get together and travel somewhere as a group around the Christmas season. We every year we get together and we have PowerPoint presentations, and everybody comes with a location and you have to pitch your location. So you have to include like, why do you want to go? What's the price point? What are the flights like? What are the hotels like? What are the activities like? What are the food? What's the food like? And you have to kind of sell your place where you want to go.
Can I tell you something? This is hilarious. My very first episode was one of my best friends. He lives in Buffalo, and he said that now, as of this year, as of this last Christmas, I believe, him and his wife decided with their three kids, who are very young, 12, 13 years old and down, they are doing exactly that. They're at Christmas, they are proposing, all of them, even the little ones, are
Oh,
picking a place on Earth that they want to go. And obviously, the smaller they are, the more help they need. But they're finding a place and they're looking at how much it will cost to do it and where they want to go and planning out some sort of itinerary. And then they're pitching it and then they're making decisions together.
oh my
Isn't
god,
that
that's
cool?
perfect. That's perfect. It's
Yeah.
that's fun. Yeah. It's I mean, I hope that it's something that takes off because like it's great to get together and have a nice meal around Christmas time, but like it's being together and doing something fun that like is more, what the
Heck
holiday
yes. And
is,
there's nothing better than travel for families and for experiences. They
Yeah.
last so much longer than gifts.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but that was just
No, no. That's so
that was the
funny.
first I ever heard of someone doing that, and then you just said that now, and it was just amazing.
Yeah. Oh my god, that's so funny. That's such a funny coincidence. So yeah, so 2 years ago it was my dad's it might have been my mom's pick. Barbados. So they rented a big house by the beach and we just like hung out and drank and got sunburned and swam in the pool and just like chilled. And we like drove around Barbados and explored the culture. We did some hikes. Met some locals. We had a really great time. And then last year was Costa Rica, and it was my dad's pick. And my dad is like adventure dad. He surfs, he skis, he wants to do all of the stuff. So it was much more like a jump around kind of trip. So we flew into San Jose, spent one night in San Jose, took a puddle jumper out to the Oso Peninsula. From the puddle jumper plane, we got into a very rickety little van. The van drove us out to the water. At the water, we waded out to a boat. And I say waded because there wasn't a dock. It was like there were some dudes there who could put your suitcase on their shoulders and you have to like roll up your pant legs and walk out to the boat. And then take the boat out probably like 40 minutes to this like rainforest hotel.
No jellyfish at that point, though.
No jellyfish at that point. That was, I
Nice.
think, the second day that we got out there. And we stayed at this really gorgeous, oh my God, I can look up what it's called. Shoot, I should have had this already.
Okay.
Sorry, you might have to edit this out.
No editing. Come on.
Rain-
But that's, it's funny that you say that was the place that you went to, because my wife has been to Costa Rica countless times, a dozen maybe or more.
Mhm.
And I've been there probably three, four times, maybe. I don't think five, and that's a place that she has always wanted to go and never gone. So the first place you went is the place that she's talked about going forever. And it just never worked into the plans.
Mhm.
But I'm not complaining. I'm not upset. It's, yeah.
Oh gosh, the name is escaping me. I'm sorry. So we each got like our own little bungalow, every couple. The first night that we were there, we did a night hike through the jungle, which was bananas. Our guide was just like the most unbelievably knowledgeable guy. Like he just knew all of the different species and what they ate and like what their calls sounded like. And I don't know how he could see, like from like many feet away, he could see like a very specific type of spider like hiding under a leaf. And he'd be like, oh, come closer. Like, this is like the largest spider in the peninsula. It's da 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 da. We
There's
saw
some pretty wicked spiders. You see poison dart frogs?
I don't think we saw poison dart frog. We did see like the classic rainforest frog, the cute
Mm-hmm.
little bright green with the big eyes. That was very, very cute. We saw sloths and possums and a scorpion or two, some very, very big spiders, and something that is called a scorpion spider, which, if anybody listening has seen Harry Potter, I think it's like the third Harry Potter movie where they're testing out the like spells you're never supposed to say, and they test out the Cruciatus curse on this like horrifying spindly creature thing. That is a scorpion spider, and they are terrifying. They're apparently harmless. They're very, very scary though. And my boyfriend
Mm-hmm.
was like, "Put it in my hand. I want to make friends with it."
Oh my god.
Yep. So the boys passed it around, and the girls stood back and took pictures.
Josh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jeez.
Silly, silly, silly boy. The food was really amazing. It was really great to like get together every morning and have meals together as a family. One of the guys working there, we were just talking about like, oh, like where have you been in the US? Like da 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 da. And he was like, oh, I worked in Maine. I did like a few months like working for a restaurant, I think. And we were like, where in Maine? And he was like, Portland. And we all freaked out because like Portland is one of the major cities near like where we grew up, and we could be like, oh my God, you've been to this restaurant, have you been to this bar, have you been to this place? So Danielle, if you're listening, we still think about you, we love you, we miss you, we hope that you come up to Portland, we would love to host you.
Small world, isn't it?
Yeah, very, very small world. The
It's
world is so vast, as
it's
is the name
real.
of your episode, but the world is also super, super small.
Yeah.
um they had a very sweet little resort dog who was so stinky named Scooby. Apparently, this dog, they were like, oh, yeah, he doesn't really live here full time. Like, he has a family, he has an owner, and he'll walk through the jungle for like an hour both ways, just by himself. Because he knows when he comes here, he gets attention and treats and a nice place to hang out. And they had like a little bed for him.
Dogs are also so incredible.
So cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were there for a couple nights, and then we got back on the boat and went to like a different part of the peninsula. And that's what we went to, a place that was like a little bit, it wasn't as wild. It was right overlooking the ocean. This hotel room was so, so beautiful, like on the cliffside, just looking out on the bay, on the ocean. The sunsets were so beautiful, right on the beach. And yeah, it was sort of like a wellness kind of retreat. Like we could do yoga in the mornings. They had like, a little like welcome smoothie for everybody. The pools were really, really fun, really beautiful. Yeah, and just like the food in particular in Costa Rica is just so flavorful and so fresh,
Mm-hmm.
and you can tell that they put so much focus and pride into like doing things organically, no pesticides. They don't ship anything in. Like they're food wise, they're really, really conscious about like ethical farming practices. And it shows in like how good their food is.
I mean, who would think that rice, beans, and plantains could be so good?
Yeah.
Especially like next day.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The next that I mean, that's what when you go for breakfast, if you're eating like locals, like you're eating it's essentially leftover rice and beans
Mm-hmm.
that they and it's so good.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of fruit. Like we just ate fruit, kind of like all day, every day. It was like always just like a thing that we could have on the table. Um,
And if you're driving down the roads, like back roads and stuff, it doesn't matter where you are. There's somebody with a cart selling
yeah, yeah,
jackfruit or like some crazy, and they have baskets and like bushels of it, and it's so good and so cheap.
and
It's
so
incredible.
fresh. Yeah,
Yep.
so plentiful. We drove out to a couple national parks. We saw the like all four main species of monkeys that are native to Costa Rica. So that was cool. We saw a toucan. We saw like some really funky looking wild like guinea fowl. And the craziest, so there were two like animal wise, that was just kind of mind blowing. We saw a tapir. You know what tapir is?
Well, okay, tell me because I saw some weird like pig dog looking thing once.
It's almost like an elephant. Like picture like a baby elephant, but
Okay, no.
minus the big ears. And it kind of has like a long nose, but not like a trunk.
Okay, no, I did not see those.
Yeah, they're some like prehistoric looking. They're apparently very sweet. They're very docile. We were with a guide because that's the other thing. You cannot go without a guide into the national parks in Costa Rica. At least the ones that we went to. They're very, very serious about like you have to go with an expert. You cannot just go in, wander around. Like they're very, very conscious of like making sure people stay on the paths. people don't litter, like don't be stupid, don't be bringing stuff in that you shouldn't. They're very, very strict about that for a very good reason. But this tapir, this like giant animal, was just like peacefully sleeping like under like a little bush, and we could all like take turns kind of like tiptoeing like into the brush to get a peek at it and then just kind of like scurry away. And the other animals that we saw that just blew my mind were whales. We were taking, it was the scuba, we were going snorkeling. So this was the snorkeling trip that I got stung by a jellyfish. And they said like, it's kind of the season where we might see whales, but like maybe not. It's kind of hard to say. And we were driving out in a direction, and then the captain at the helm saw the like spout go off like way in the distance and made like a hard right. And we were like, what's going on? Like, where are we? And he's like, there's a whale over there. And so we kind of like slowed down and kind of just like let the boat kind of coast and turn the engine off to just kind of wait. And they said it's most likely a mama and a baby. The mom has to come up every like 15 minutes to breathe. The baby has to come up every like 5. So if we saw the mama come up to breathe, we have probably about 15 minutes before we see her again. And if there's a baby, we're probably going to see it in the next like 5 or 10. And sure enough, we saw just a little, I mean, it wasn't little, but it was little in comparison to the mom. This giant, I think they were humpback whales, come peeking out of the water. And then we start to see the tails and the fins, and they weren't like scared of us. They were just kind of like doing their own thing. And I wouldn't say that we got like super close, but like close enough that we could really see like the details, see the like the barnacles that were stuck on them. It was just like, of the bucket list things of my life, seeing whales has been probably top like 5 or 10. And to be able to check it off that day was really, really, really amazing.
So awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Costa Rica's so magical. Yeah.
Costa Rica's magical. It's just a magical place. The people there are so sweet. They're so welcoming. And it was so different from anywhere that we had really been before. So wild.
Yeah, and we talked about, I think you should definitely go back and you should definitely check out the East Coast. It's wonderful. We actually did way further south from where you were. We went to Manuel Antonio National Park, which we actually didn't like go like trekking through the park. We actually went there for the beach, but that was just incredibly beautiful as well. And again, like, you're hanging out on the beach, and if you don't cover your food up and stuff, like the monkeys just climb out of the trees, grab your food, and go back up in the tree.
Yeah.
And it's just it's an environment like I've never experienced anywhere else. Like, where else do you sit on the porch of the Airbnb that you're renting in a hammock, and just, again, you look up in the trees and you see monkeys swinging around, and this is just life.
Yeah, it's just how people live there.
So incredible.
It's crazy.
Pura Vida is a real thing, and I wish that it would translate here, but there's just no way.
Yeah.
You kind of need to be in that environment to have that life. But yeah, I love that life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, anything else you want to say about Costa Rica before we probably should head into our final 5 questions?
Oh, I mean, you said it, but like, do beware of the monkeys. So the last hotel that we stayed at, they had to caution us, like, do not leave your porch open because the monkeys have learned to open the minibar, and they will come in and they will steal the snacks. They're very, very, very bold and very mischievous, and they go after what they want. And I don't know, can't help but respect them for it.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, if you want it, go get it. We're in their land.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Yeah. Okay, so final 5 questions. And if you think of anything, like, while we're talking about this, anything spurs up and you want to tell a story, something, please, you're welcome to. So we touched on food a little bit, but question number 1 is, of all of the places that you've ever been in your entire life, anywhere in the world, not within your own home or like your parents' home or something like that, most memorable meal you've ever had in your entire life?
Oh boy. This is really hard because my partner and I are food tourists. He's a chef. He loves to cook. He is like always looking into like the next Michelin starred joint we're very lucky to live in New York, and we have a lot of really amazing cuisine right at our doorstep. Ooh, as far as like the best meal.
And that could be, well, I didn't say best, I said most memorable.
Oh, most memorable. Most memorable.
Doesn't have to be at a restaurant. Could be
That's true.
Anywhere.
That's true. Gosh, this is like actually really, really hard. Hard in a good way, because like I've been very lucky to have a lot of really, really great food. Well, okay, maybe sitting around the fire with my college best friend. I want to say we were in Yosemite and we were so stinky and dusty and sleep deprived, and we had no other way to cook but over the fire, and we were like dividing up like cans of soup and stuff. And yeah, we just heated up this like, I think it must have been like minestrone, and it definitely had ashes in it. But sitting in the dark across from this really beautiful friend who's still in my life. She's such a fantastic person. She's defending her thesis in about a week. She has her PhD, and it's just so wild to think about like everywhere she's gone, everywhere I've gone, but like sitting at that fire and literally just eating this soup out of the pot that we had heated it up in. And just thinking like, I think I'm going to know this girl for the rest of my life. Like this is like the most bonding, like primal thing. And there might have been two girls, two women thousands of years ago, like sharing a meal in this exact same spot in the
Yeah.
woods by themselves. So I don't know, as far as like a meal that stands out for like an emotional place,
I love it.
that's maybe what I could say. It's kind of out of
I
left
love
field.
it.
I don't know. Yeah.
No, I love it. It's something, listen, nobody else in the world could have that exact same experience that you had.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Okay. One of my favorite questions that I ever have is question number 2. I sometimes think about changing it and having it be the last one, but I like it where it's at. Of all of the places you have been in the world, for whatever reason you choose, if I tell you, Jane, here's a free trip, everything's paid for, go, and you say, nope, I don't want to go, where would you not go again?
Oh
And,
my
and again,
gosh.
it could just be, I've spent my time there, I'm good, I don't need to go back, or I just don't want to go there again.
Maybe. I mean, I'm trying to think if there would be like anywhere in Europe that I'm like, I don't know if I need to go back there.
Could even be in the States.
It could be in the States. It's true. Oh, gosh, this is hard.
Free trip, Jane.
I know.
Maybe there's not an answer.
Yeah, it's really, really hard because I also don't want to like talk smack about anywhere.
Talk smack. People do it. People
People
do
do
it.
it.
It's your own feelings. You can't, nobody can, everyone's experiences are different. There's definitely places that people have bad experiences or whatever, and they're just like, no, but other people love it. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah, it's hard to say because like I also just love the act of traveling,
Mm-hmm.
but I did have to travel for a day job that I had years ago, and I was like an independent contractor. They kind of would assign me things, and I would have to go wherever I had to go for it. And I covered all 5 boroughs of New York, but they also wanted me to cover parts of New Jersey. Um, and part of this job is to like it was kind of in the real estate space, um, but I had to go out to Secaucus, New Jersey. I hope to never go back there. I hope to never think about Secaucus, New Jersey. It was probably a combination of a lot of things. Like I had to get up at 4 a.m. to catch the bus. Port Authority is so squirrely at like, super early in the morning and late at night, kind of all the time. The bus was just gross. And then it was just like it just it was a bad weather day, but also just like I don't know, the air it just kind of stank, maybe because of like where it is on the water, and everything was just like concrete. It was just concrete and freeways, and I just remember being like, I want to quit this job right now, just because I had to go out to this terrible place. And like, there's no shade on the people that I was meeting out there, but part of this job was to do like apartment inspections. And it was just like the most depressing, sad, weird apartment complex. And like the apartment was just so just like sad and fluorescent lighting. And it was just overall like such a miserable, miserable day that like it took 2.5 hours to get out there so I could do a job and charge for maybe an hour of it to then have to travel 2.5 hours back. So I don't know. I having lived in New York for so long, it might be low hanging fruit to talk smack about New Jersey. There are very beautiful parts of New Jersey. It's not like an overall New Jersey thing. Secaucus, New Jersey can slide into the ocean.
I'm so glad I can mute because I am laughing out loud because you're like, I don't want to throw shade on anybody. And I'm
And
like,
then I
come on,
do.
it's okay, you can. You're like, yes, a caucus is the armpit of hell.
Sorry, like I don't know, like maybe I should go back. Anybody listening who's from Secaucus, I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings. That was just my experience there. I'm sure there are plenty of places that are very close to my heart, and if you go and just you had a bad day, you had a bad time, that's what sticks out in your mind. So maybe I should go back to Secaucus and try to find the good parts and try to turn it around for myself. But a free trip and it's to Secaucus, I'd be like, no, thank you at all.
If you live in Secaucus and you're listening, please like and subscribe and rate the
Yep.
podcast. And hey, just thank Jane because it's the first time you've been mentioned on the pod.
Yeah, and feel free to let me know why I'm wrong. Feel free
There you
to
go.
comment all the great things that there are to do and to see in Secaucus.
For sure. I'm sure that not everyone lives there so that they're close to New York City
Yeah, true.
and pay less in taxes. So, flipping that, question 3, where is the one place that you have been in the world that you absolutely have to go back?
Paris.
Okay.
Paris, France. Oh, Paris. Like we talk about.
Not Paris, Texas.
No, no. Yeah,
Thanks for
Paris, France.
clarifying.
There's also a Paris, Maine.
Yes. Oh, yeah. That's
Paris,
right.
Maine is also a lovely place. So I went to Paris with a group of, like, I was in high school and it was like a school trip. I had been a French student throughout middle and high school. My older sister took French, my younger sister took French. The French program at our school was run by this delightful, beautiful, lovely woman who she would just go by Madame. Everybody just calls her Madame. And the amount of passion and love that she put into teaching, like, it's just so inspiring. And like to this day, she is one of the most amazing people in all of our lives. She like hand painted her entire classroom to look like a French chateau. And the French class, you learn the vocab and the tenses and whatever. But the other part of her class was also like French culture, and we would cook and we would watch movies in French and listen to French music, because her whole approach was like, you have to have a breadth of experience in the life of the language and the people who speak this language in order for it to start sticking with you.
It's as much immersion as you can do still being in the
Exactly.
US.
So she did a trip to Paris every year with a group of students. I think you had to like at least be a junior or senior. And I think she capped it at maybe like 15 kids. And she knows Paris truly like the back of her hand, to the point that like she can walk into a countless number of restaurants and like know the waiters there. Like and she lived over there for a while. She just knows that city like nobody else. And she like really knew like which touristy attractions to go to at what times of day so that they weren't completely mobbed. And it was as much like an educational trip as it was to just like have an amazing fun time. And we had just done Les Mis. I played Eponine. My best friend played Cosette. My boyfriend at the time played Marius. It was a whole thing. And our theater caught on fire the week before we were supposed to open. So the entire school, and honestly, a lot of like the parents and the people, like the town, like our community rallied to help us still put this production on. We moved it to another high school, so a whole other high school at a different town hosted us, and it was like a way bigger theater, so we could all of a sudden sell a lot more tickets. They moved the set to my parents' barn so they could keep working on it. Like our teachers like let us skip class for extra rehearsals. Like it was just such an amazing experience. So then to do that show and then go to Paris, everybody was losing their minds, basically, is what I'm trying to say. So we were there for, I want to say like a week, and we saw so much and ate so much and experienced so much. But I would really love to go back because, one, you can never see the end of Paris in the same way that like you can visit New York, you can live in New York. I've lived in New York on and off for 15 years. I feel like I've experienced 45 minutes of New York. There's always more to see in New York. Paris is like 10 times the size of New York and like 10 times as old. So like there's always, I know there's always going to be something else that I would love to see and experience in a place like Paris. One of my really close friends also moved out there, so she's been having a really amazing time. And yeah, it's just one of those like magical, beautiful places that has so much to offer in food and culture, in art, in fashion, in history. Like just Paris is just everything. And so that trip was such a whirlwind, and it was such a long time ago. I would really, really love to go back as like a real adult and kind of do Paris my own way.
Would you be upset if I told you that one of my former guests told me that as question 2, they compared Paris, France to Secaucus, New Jersey?
Really? They hated it?
No, not to that degree, but it was the answer
They didn't have
once
a good
upon a
time.
time for I don't need to go back. Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah,
But,
I mean,
experiences are different for everybody. And I'm sure with something like that where, you're so like diving into the culture before you even get there,
yeah.
it's very different.
Yeah.
So I'm sure their experience as a tourist was a very different one.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's very true.
I love it. I love that. I love the fact that so many people rallied around the arts and
Yeah.
to make sure that that stayed alive, because there's not enough of that. I don't think, even when there's not, some sort of adversity. That's
Yeah. Yeah. That was, I mean, I hesitate to say that I peaked in high school, but like based on that experience, I'm like, I might have peaked in high school because that was just so, it was just so crazy and so beautiful. And we all had so much fun and like everybody bonded so tightly. And like to this day, my parents still talk about just how much our entire community rallied around us. Yeah, to still put that show on. And I don't think I've done a musical since, actually.
wow. You should. It's awesome. So, okay, question 4. This one, I don't know if this was easy for you or not, but of all the places that you have not been in the world, where do you absolutely have to go?
Gosh. Ooh.
Can you pick one,
I
maybe
know.
two? So I like to phrase this because it's, if you're into travel and experiencing the world and cultures, bucket lists, quote unquote, can be very long.
True.
But there are, like, for me, I know that there's one or two places that are tippy top by a stretch. Like, I have to get to these places.
I would really love to go to Morocco. Let's just say Morocco, because I feel like if I start going down a list, it's just going to be an endless list. I would really love to go to Morocco. I have yet to explore any of the African continent, which seems like it's so important. Like, to explore Europe, yeah, but it's still kind of familiar. But like to something so different from the culture and environment that you already know. So I would love to explore, like I have to get to Asia, I have to get to Latin America, and I have to get to Africa. I would really love to go to Morocco, be it like environmentally, like a desert environment is very different from a lot of the other places that I've been. Culturally, I think it would be something very new, and it just looks like otherworldly gorgeous. Like I would love to do like, camping out in the dunes. And I think it's like history that I have yet to really dig into. Like, it's so important to learn the history of wherever you go. And culturally, like a place like Morocco is just, it's history like I've never really, learned about before.
Yeah, and I apologize. We're running long, and I'm sorry for that. But
no, it's me.
But I have another question in between
Yeah.
questions 4 and 5. So when you go to places like that, like, how much research do you do ahead of time as far as trip planning? Like saying, okay, well, I'm going to be there for 10 days. I have to see this place, whatever. But even like deeper than that, like when you go to some place that has historic significance or is just super meaningful to a culture, like, and I guess I'm asking this question because what I find for myself is I plan to say, okay, well, I definitely want to hit these main places. I don't try to overbook myself. I try to have time to just explore on my own. But what I find happening for myself is I'll go to these places and I'll learn so much while I'm there that after the fact, I'm just like, oh my God, I have to learn more about this. So it's almost more, I kind of like to go into it maybe not knowing as much, but knowing that it's significant. And then afterward, I'm just like, I need to just ingest as much as I can about what I just saw. So then I'm buying books and I'm watching videos and stuff when I get back.
Mm-hmm.
What is that like for you? Is it similar, opposite? How do you handle that?
I mean, I do try to go in with a plan. Like, you ultimately have to hit the big, you call them tourist attractions, call them whatever you want, but it's like, if these are places of significance, just hit them. And, if they're important to the culture, if they're important to the people there, like, it's important that you show up. But I think like when you over plan something, you kind of put pressure on yourself to like I think it's easy to like overbook yourself and kind of run yourself into the ground. I think it's important to like leave space for spontaneity.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I do like 2 or 3 days of like a hard itinerary, and then just to, leave yourself some time to just kind of like wander around and just see what happens and see what speaks to you. Cause then you also learn about like just the daily life there and how people, move around on like a normal day, and like how do you fit in that mix,
Yeah.
so probably a healthy mix, a healthy balance of knowing. You want to know the culture so that you're respectful of people and you don't like stick out as a tourist, like safety wise, and also you just want to be conscientious of the people who are already living there. But being able to just be kind of freeform with how you spend your time and where you put your energy and attention can also be a really like fun, enlightening way to see a new place.
But do you get sucked into like the history or importance of some place if you really didn't truly understand it? Like, do you then go back afterward and you're like, okay, I've got to learn more?
Sometimes, yeah,
Or
it depends on where I went. I don't know. I feel like sometimes I'm kind of a fly on the wall, and I like to do a lot of just like listening and watching, and then like later I'm like, oh wait, that was interesting. Like looking back at the photos, I'm like, oh, I should look into that thing again. I should like, why was that piece of history like so disruptive at that time? And yeah, I
yeah,
mean everything is a learning opportunity too.
yeah. I just yeah, like I the ones that stick out to me, and again I'll be very brief. Like when I went to the Vatican, that was like I grew up as a Catholic. I'm not a practicing Catholic now, but it was just so incredible. Like I bought books because I was just like, wow, I need to learn more about the history of this place. And there was another, ironically, it was a church, but another church that was in Italy, somewhere north, that they have like the sun ray that comes in that follows like
Oh yeah,
that like you can see the exact time of day and the astrological signs on the floor
crazy.
and just like I just wanted to learn more about the history of even just that church. Like how did they why did they build this? Why how did that happen? And so it's yeah, it's just it's really cool stuff.
Yeah,
So I find myself doing that a lot.
is that in
Where
Florence? The
no, it
church in
wasn't in
Florence?
Florence. It was either I want to say it may have been in Milan. Can't remember. It was a kind of a whirlwind. It was Milan, Bologna, and Venice.
Wow.
But I think it was Milan. I'm just not sure.
How do you feel about the new pope?
I know nothing besides he's American.
He's from Chicago.
And yeah, so yes, I'll say yay. All right, this has been really incredibly fantastic. My final question for you is where are you going? Do you have any plans? Anything going on?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Okay. Whoa. So in early June, we are going to the Turks and Caicos. It is my boyfriend's mother's birthday, and she wanted to ball out and do something big. So we're all flying down there to celebrate her and hang out by the beach.
You know that you can have those dogs shipped. You can
Don't
adopt a dog
say
and have
that.
them
Don't say that. No, no, no. Don't say that.
Oh,
Don't tempt me.
I'll edit that part. No, it was for you? Okay, well I can't take it back.
Well, no, 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 because I would. I absolutely would. And then in late June, I booked the flight and I bought the hotel, and that is the end of the planning that I've done, which is really stupid. I'm going to Banff National Park.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, for my 30th. I'm gonna climb a mountain and scream into the void. Yeah. And it
Is this
was
just you?
just me. I will get very specific about, an itinerary, and I'll tell everybody where I'm going and when I'm going. And my partner and I have our locations shared all the time. So, yeah, safety wise, I'm going to be all squared away. But I have to plan like how I'm getting in and out of the national park. Like, you stay in like Banff town. Like, there's a quaint little town with a main street, and that's where all the hotels and, hobby shops are. And then you can take like shuttles and stuff out to the hiking trails. I'm not going to do any crazy like backwoods multi-day camping thing. I'm just going to go do like short day hikes and get the photos, and then go back to my my cushy little bed and breakfast. Yeah, so that's late June. And then actually in December, our big family trip was it's my pick. I pitched this idea. We're going to go to Sedona, Arizona.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Red Rock?
yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's the
Nice.
spiritual vortexes, and we're gonna try to see if we can see an alien, and we're gonna go get our auras read. Yeah, it's gonna be wild.
That is so awesome. I haven't been to Sedona, but I've been to Scottsdale and a couple other areas, and it's just beautiful out there.
Yeah, it's so different from like anywhere else in the U.S. It's such a wackadoo landscape. It's like you're driving through Mars. Like truly, it's a different planet.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. And that's going to be a great time of year, too. I mean, it might be a little. You're going in December?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So, I mean, a little chilly, but
I think
not.
so.
It shouldn't be too bad. Yeah. So, that's so great.
Yeah, and it's mainly just for us to get together, and we got this big house out in the desert, and we're just gonna like cook and hang out and go hiking and just spend time together.
Yeah. Really incredible hiking out there. So, yeah, it's good for you. All right.
Thanks.
This, honestly, I knew we'd have fun.
Me too.
I didn't know we would take this long.
I know. I'm sorry. I kept blabbing.
Officially longest single episode, but I'm not going to cut it up. I'm going to just leave it as
My
one.
God.
Hey, it is. I never put a cap on it. Nobody told me I had to. So,
Wow.
anything you want to add or say or whatever before I hit stop?
Oh, I think just everybody listening, just like be nice to each other, be kind, have empathy. The reason that we travel is to learn about each other and connect across cultures and languages. And we should never stop, because at the core of it, it's just, finding what connects us. Yeah. And it's all love. That's like probably the most hippy dippy thing I've said in a while.
It's a common theme, I think,
Yeah.
on this podcast, and I love it, and I love the direction that it's taking. And you've just been fantastic. The stories you told have been really wonderful, and thank you. And I didn't actually have you specifically say like, this is my Instagram account, this is my your website. I will post them in the show notes. I usually do that very early on in case people don't listen all the way through, but I will I'll post them so people can get a hold of you if they want to.
Awesome.
And yeah, I again had so much fun, and I wish you nothing but the best. And I'm going to watch your show, which I believe you had a 4-episode arc?
Yes, I think so. That's what
we'll see.
I got 4 separate scripts. So again, like actors are kind of like the last people to like fully learn what is happening. So I think it's a 4-episode arc. Yeah, I don't know.
So
well, thank you so
awesome.
much. This was so fun. I'm so glad that you reached out. It's so cool to like take a chance and reach out to a stranger. But thank you so much for being on my podcast. You were such a great guest, and thank you so much for bringing me onto yours. This was really fun, and like it really, I don't know, got me thinking and really feeling. And I just feel so lucky to have been able to travel and have the experiences that I have. And I hope to travel forever. I hope to do it for the rest of my life.
You and me both. All I'm doing right now is living vicariously through stories. So this is the greatest thing to happen to me. So yeah, thanks, Jane, and take care.
Thanks. Yeah, you too. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
And there's another episode of the Where Have You Been podcast in the books. Thank you so much for listening today. It was another great guest with some great stories, as always, and I hope that you will support all of the guests by checking out the show notes and going to their web pages, seeing any socials and projects that they may have going on. And please, again, I'll ask as always to like, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It really does help to allow the podcast to grow and reach more people, and I appreciate you for doing that. Also, if you haven't done so, check out the website, whybpodcast.com, where you can find blog posts. If you'd like to be a guest, please register to be a guest on the site, and check out the merch page. There's some really cool stuff if you're interested in representing the pod, along with some other cool travel items and apparel that I'm working on every day as well. Join me again next week for another great guest with more incredible stories. New episodes drop every Sunday just after midnight Eastern Time. Until then, thank you for being here, and have a great day.